Welcome to Let's Talk Antigonish, the podcast where we sit down with neighbors, experts, and friends to explore the stories, the questions, and the big little issues that shape life in our town, one conversation at a time. This week, we're getting a peek behind the curtain at the mysterious Whidden Park Campground in downtown Antigonish. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Talk Antigonish. It's co-host number one, Justin.
And this is Anuj, number two.
Number two. Hello, sir. We are here with Andrew Whidden, the CEO of Whidden Campground. Hello, good sir.
Hi, nice to be here.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Welcome.
We've never met before. And so we are asking questions about the campground. And so if you're from Antigonish, you're perfectly aware that there's a campground in the middle of town called Whidden's Park, right? Is that what it's called?
Whidden Park, yes.
Whidden Park. But if you're new to town, maybe you've driven by it and you've never gone down that little road, because it's literally at the intersection of like Main Street and Hawthorne, right?
Yeah, just right across from Lynn's Chinese food.
Yeah, so a lot of people may have driven by or seen people turning in there and wondered what that place is. So we are asking these questions of you from a place of, let's say, total ignorance.
Right.
So what is the deal with a campground in the middle of our town? How did this come about?
Well, it wasn't always a campground, but it's been in my family for a couple of hundred years.
A couple
hundreds
years.
of years.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. At our entrance, one Hawthorne, which has a plaque stating it's the oldest house in Antigonish.
Wait a minute, is that the one right at the front?
Yeah, with the
White
nice features around the roof line.
So, yes, that's the oldest house in Antigonish?
Yep.
What does that mean? This is the first house built?
Yeah, well, it's the first one that still remains.
Okay.
There would have been older that have been destroyed since.
So what is the year that's from, do you know?
1816, I believe.
1816?
Yeah.
That house is very old.
Yeah.
Okay, wait a
210
second.
years.
So what are the Whiddens? Explain. Someone from your family came over from, I'm assuming, Scotland.
From England.
From England, no less.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
From England in the late 1500s.
Okay.
Came to the United States and as loyalists made our way up to Canada.
One of those types. Yes, that is my family's origin story as well. It came to Canada, and then built that house. So this was where they settled initially, or were they?
Eventually, they started in a couple places, Isaac's Harbor being one of them, just down in Guysborough.
Okay.
And eventually made their way to Antigonish.
And then bought a bunch of land for farming purposes?
It was a farm, yes.
What kind of farm?
So it changed, I'm sure, over the years, but in my grandfather's time, because he was the last one to run it as a farm, he had horses, he had pigs, he had some crops. There was hay, and rhubarb was a big one my grandmother used to talk about.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was, it was a pretty serious farm. We supplied grocers. There was a grocery store attached to the business, in a sense, with C.B. Whidden and Son.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, Peggy Thompson's book, The History of Antigonish in Pictures, has some excellent photographs from back in that time, where you can see these old stores.
And I'm assuming the farm itself was where the park currently is, but probably in a bigger area as well.
It was bigger, yeah. It extended back sort of towards the junior school.
Wow. So it took up most of the downtown.
Basically Braymore Avenue and those subdivisions back there.
It was all Whidden farm ground.
With Whidden Farm,
farms.
yeah.
Okay. So so you've been selling off land for a long time to create the downtown, the Whidden family.
Right, I guess, yeah.
Why isn't this place called like Whiddenville? I feel like we should rename it. Oh no! Oh, well, it's Antigonish.
Exactly.
We'll start with that one.
Yes.
But
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So right. So now, give us, I guess, the history. How did you get from gigantic farm to the house is still standing, the original farmhouse,
Yep.
and now it's a campground with
Now it's a
other
campground.
housing. So what happened over the years?
So it happened fairly organically. During the 50s and 60s, a lot of tourism started kicking off for Cabot Trail and other parts of the province.
Okay.
So we would get travelers, mostly from the United States, coming through, and they would knock on my grandfather's door and ask to set up a camper or a tent in the field.
I see.
And so he saw an opportunity, and from that, it ballooned into a full business.
So it started out as a campground in the sense that people were like, hey, I need to sleep.
Yep.
Can I sleep in your hayfield or whatever?
And I think that's how early campgrounds basically were. They weren't official, camping grounds. It was you would just knock on the door of somebody with some land, usually farmers, and just set up in their yard.
So what was the transition from turning it into farm to campground? What kind of infrastructure had to be built, or what had to happen?
Yeah, it's changed a lot since we originally so we're in our 65th year, first of all, so it's a big year for us as an established campground. But at the very beginning, the needs were very meager. Campers were basically tents on wheels, and even up until about the 90s, their power needs were 15 amp was plenty. But that's increased. It went to 30, and now 50 is becoming largely the standard.
And is that because of large like RVs coming in?
Larger RVs and more electronics inside. So air conditioners draw a lot of power. A lot of the bigger units will have multiple air conditioners.
Okay, so now this is what I find fascinating. Sort of this transition from like a tent with just like a plug for your hairdryer. I don't know what people brought.
Right,
in
a light or whatever.
Light, yeah. And now, so that was what camping used to be.
Yeah.
And now camping is, I've come with a, $300,000 RV that I'm plugging in with an air conditioner. Is that what's happening?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've watched, like your family's seen that happen. Okay.
Yes, yeah. If you look back to the old photos, there's some on our website from like the 70s. The campers are a lot smaller, a lot closer together. They're sharing power a lot of the time. Now they're all dedicated. They have their own circuits, and they're bigger units. Yeah.
Fascinating.
So that's been a change in the number of units that we can park. So we used to have, I think, up to 400 campsites. We're down to 154 now.
Okay, so 400 campsites because it was a little tent.
Little tent, yeah.
That's still, but 154 is still a lot.
Yes, yeah.
And so, paint me a picture of because I've been back in there for various reasons, and there are houses there that people live in full time, like apartments.
Yes, yeah. We have, so one Hawthorne is an apartment building. Okay. That's the oldest house. There's 2 different apartment buildings on the property, too. The big red barn that was part of the original farm is still there.
Okay.
We use that for storage, and we make ice in there that we sell locally. And there's also a mini home park at the front of the campground. Once you pass the mini homes, you get into the campground.
So what is the mini home park? They're permanently there and they're rented out?
Exactly. Yeah, there's sort of a mix. The majority of them are owned by us, and we rent them out on a monthly basis. A handful are, and fewer are privately owned, and they rent the lot from us, similar to a camper in the campground. They're paying lot fees instead of rent.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the rest is just spaces with hookups.
In the campground, would be spaces. Yeah, there is a clear divide. There's a gate and separate entrance in a sense to the campground from the mini home park.
Right. And so I imagine back in the day, an old campground didn't have many like amenities. Like
oh no, it would be very sparse. Yeah.
And what about things like toilets or water, electricity?
Yeah, those needs increased as well. So the electricity is ballooned in demand. Water and sewer hookups are needed, especially for extended stays. The sewer is important.
Okay.
Because they do have holding tanks, and what they'll do is they'll use that for a weekend, and then they'll empty it on the way out. We have a dump station.
Okay.
But 100 of our sites, 99 of them are full hookup, so power, water, sewer, right at the site.
Okay, Anuj, I have a question for you. So you're from India originally. I lived in North America, so I'm used to camping as a concept. Maybe not this new RV version. I lived for a while in Europe, where camping is similar, usually smaller scale, more like the 80s style here. What is this camping culture? Something you recognize from your youth?
Thanks for the Hollywood. It did reach India early on. But I guess, it remained something that we saw on the screen more than lived it. Our, favorite summer pastime as children growing up was more picnics in the wild, right? So we as a group will get onto a open truck, and go to the wild in the forest, near the water or something, and we spend the day. And we would have them almost every weekend as friends.
So just the day. You're not there for like a month.
So campground experience is quite not something that I grew up with, or many Indians have grown up with, even though many Indians or migrants who have traveled to and migrated to North America now have indulged in this experience for sure. Yeah. And I'm sure you have seen them on your campground.
Yes.
But I guess, so tell us a little bit about, or me a little bit about the campground culture that you see. Why do people come there? What do they do there?
Well, the culture is community, and what you have is regulars that come back. They know each other. and they enjoy camping together. You'll see them in the nights. They gather around the same fire pit. They they play music, they talk, and it's what brings them back more than the location or anything else about the swimming pools, anything like that. It's the other people that are there with them.
Yeah, because I have Antigonisher friends from here who live like in town or close to town,
right,
who go to Whidden's.
And I never understood that, why did that happen.
Yeah, and so even for me, having grown up in camping culture, that I'm like, oh, that's weird because you have a house. Like, what do you do? So explain that part of the culture.
Yeah, that part seems unusual, but it's actually fairly common for other campgrounds. If you live in a city, you're probably going away for the weekend. You're going to go to a nearby campground. You're not going to drive hundreds of kilometers. So it's more of a natural process than a lot of people think. Mm-hmm. But we definitely see a lot more of it here than average. And a lot of it, there's people from the county that like to move into town for the summer, be close to the restaurants. And that's what's unique about our location, is that you can actually leave your campsite, walk out and have a fine meal somewhere, or go to Festival Antigonish, go to People's Place Library. It's all in walking distance.
That's why it's interesting to interview you, because most campgrounds you think of like out in the wilderness or whatever. But our town is weird in that we have a huge... Unique, weird, whatever. Yep. In that we have a huge campground in the middle of town. That has to be very strange.
And also probably another way, best of both worlds. You are living the campground life.
Yeah.
But if you want to step in and enjoy a meal on the main street, you can do that in 5 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah. And you do feel like you're not in town once you're through the gate.
It does feel
Yeah. There's all sorts of older trees that make it feel a bit more out in the wilderness than right downtown.
And how much role do kids play in your campground?
Oh, huge. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
So there's sort of an informal classification of campgrounds that a lot of people use, and we call ourselves a family campground. And that's what we cater to most directly. So a lot of our clients are families with kids, varying ages. Usually by the time they hit their teens, it's time to pack it up, because the kids don't want to spend time with their families in the summer as much as they do when they're younger. And they get summer jobs, and they life changes for them. But as a family campground, it changes what you offer. So, we put a new playground in a couple years ago that if it was an adults-only park, you wouldn't have a playground. You wouldn't have, maybe the swimming pools wouldn't be as big of a draw as they are in our case.
So you have swimming pools as well?
Yeah, we have 2 swimming pools. Yeah,
but only for the residents.
Just for the campers and residents of the mini home park.
That's a good question. So, because I've been in there to visit people who lived in the apartments buildings, but like I haven't just walked into the back part where the camping is, because it's still a business. Like, I'm assuming you do not encourage people to just come hang out randomly.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it isn't. It isn't a public park, so it is private property. So we do have we have security, and we have gates, and it is it's an unusual problem for our campground versus others that are in more rural locations. Yeah. Because there's all kinds of foot traffic all around us all day. So we are kind of a draw, especially a shortcut from Braemore, where the high school is, to downtown, where the restaurants and stores are.
With 140 hookups or plus or whatever you have back there, that's a large number of human beings that are coming to live in the middle of our town. Like, that's like 140 households essentially.
Yeah, exactly. So, it could be up to 600 people. 600
people. So tell us sort of about the history or the current version of Whidden's and those 600 people interacting with the town. Is it tourists? Is it locals? How are you contributing to the economy? How do you work with the town when it comes to, because I'm sure the town must be interested in what you're up to, because you have water and sewer issues and those sorts of things. So what's going on there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're definitely very involved in town utilities. We deal a lot with electric and of course, public works for the water and sewer. But as far as our people and that are staying here and how they interact with the town, a lot of them are fairly local. They're within about half an hour to an hour of Antigonish. So already,
most of them, you'd say?
The vast majority.
Vast majority.
But that has changed. 20 to 30 years ago, it was mostly tourists, and a lot of them were from the United States. But 9/11 seemed to be a tipping point for a number of reasons.
Wow.
But
To reduce tourism.
to reduce tourism, but it also increased local staycationers, if you want to call them that.
Fascinating. So what is different, would you say, for your campground? Because you said this is a bit unusual.
Yeah.
What do you do differently because of the fact they're mostly people from 30 minutes away?
30 minutes away.
Or is it the same process?
It's largely the same. I mean, the camping experience that is appealing. It's the same as pretty much any other park would have. Being more, I guess, urbanly located, we have a much more of a golf course aesthetic than like backwoods would be.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of mowing. Everything's pretty clean and maintained. Whereas if you're in the middle of the woods, you might have just growth around you and wild wild trees and things.
Go ahead, Anuj.
600 people is a lot.
Well, that's
of people, and so that creates a whole lot of economy and dynamic right downtown.
Yeah, no, they're great. They love getting out to the local restaurants. They love taking in what Antigonish offers.
Many of the restaurants must thank you for saying, "Wow, you bring all these customers to us."
I think they're happy when we're open.
And does cooking happen on the ground as well? Or how often would say?
So we don't offer any food service, but the campers, the vast majority of them, like the RVs especially, they're equipped with their own kitchens.
Correct.
So a lot of them would be doing their own cooking at home. But that's another thing related to that is that a lot of these local people that are coming to stay with us, they're staying with us for an extended period, which was a shift away from more weekending, odd nights here and there, into more of a monthly term.
Wow.
So we have about 100 people that will stay for at least a month with us during the summer.
100? That's almost all of them, frankly. 100,
It's a vast majority. Yeah, it's quite a few.
So the average demographic then is somebody who lives within 30 minutes of Antigonish.
Yep.
And has an RV or some other vehicle that they park there for many weeks at a time, this whole summer. That is who's coming.
That's the majority of them. Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, if now it's in May already.
Yes.
And we thought spring is coming and you should be getting very busy. But can I and Justin get a booking if you need to right now?
I can do something for you.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends on when. July is the busiest month of the year. For Antigonish in general. That's when the main events are happening around Highland Games and the big races out at the racetrack.
Yeah. So it doesn't sound like it, but I'm going to ask anyway. So if people are coming for the Highland Games or something at Riverside and they want to book at your place, it sounds like it's almost impossible to get in.
Right now it is. We start taking reservations in January.
Okay.
And so usually the first work day after New Year's Eve. We open up our reservation system and you can book online or you can call us.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And is there anything for the future that you're going to change? Do you have plans? You're going to, or is this the model and it obviously is working? You're just going to stick with it?
Overall, the model is working. We will have to just keep up with the demands as they increase. We have about a third of our hookup sites are now 50 amp. The remainder are 30. As more demand increases for 50 amp sites, we'll convert more of those to 50. And we're always looking at new things that we can add that will, improve their stay, give them more entertainment, more enjoyment of their stay.
One of the things that you mentioned in the passing last time we were talking is how you organize these artists coming in, and you have a small stage that you have created for a weekend even, and you don't organize it, but people can organize it.
That's correct?
Say a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So that's taken a few forms. Right now we have actually a park resident who lives in one of the mini homes, but also camps with us. She's got the shortest distance traveled to bring her camper in.
That's bizarre. It's fascinating.
She moves from one side of the gate to the other.
What? Why? Yeah. It's fascinating.
Because it is different once you're in there.
It's because that's the community feeling.
It's the community. Yeah. She has a number of people that she loves being neighbors with during the summer.
Okay, so I think that explains what's going on here, that exact scenario, because she's literally in the same location by a few feet, but being in that sequestered camping area, she does that specifically because of the social feeling of being there.
Yes, exactly.
And that's what people want?
Yep.
Huh.
Yep. And she's the one organizing this year's activities.
So what is that? I didn't know there's any performances there. This is news to me. So what does that mean? What are you talking about?
So we've brought in the last, I think it's 3 or 4 years now we've been doing this. We bring in musicians. Hammer Down has played there, local ones that you're familiar with from around here. Rock and Country was there a couple years ago.
And this is not open to the public, I assume.
It is not. It's just for the campers.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's why I don't know.
Exclusive.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you have like Celine Dion or like who's showing up?
Well, we'd love to. Yeah. No, they're more or less the names you're already familiar with from the pub or from other venues around town. But some people come from Cape Breton and other spots.
So who invites them? How does that work? Do you invite them or the residents invite them? How does that work?
So this woman I was just talking about, her name is Darcy, and she does a fantastic job of reaching out to these artists, negotiating the terms. I know that there's one band that she's bringing in this year that is from Cape Breton, and part of the deal is that she'll be covering his hotel room while he stays. So
that's cool.
Versus local ones that are, they're able to go home at the end of the show. But so she calls them and arranges it all. She fundraises to cover the costs of bringing them in as well.
Yeah, so it functions more like a gated private community in a
exactly.
Because I did not quite understand this until now, but like you have your own microcosm world happening in there,
a small town there,
I knew nothing about.
A village there.
Yeah,
village,
exactly. And we as outsiders, we could be part of it if you're paying to camp there, right? But you can't
or you get invited by a family there for an evening.
Does that happen where you have someone camping and they're like, "Hey, I'm inviting over 83 of my friends
Not
to come
83,
but like a couple of my friends to watch Hammer Down or something."
They can have friends over, during the day during visitor hours up until I think it's 9:30.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the exclusivity.
I got invited once.
Oh.
So that's how I came to know about it.
Oh, I see.
Oh, you should just give me a call, Anuj. I'd love to have you.
Yeah. But it's exclusive by design. That's part of the model
Exactly.
that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so what do you do in the winters? Till what? How much time can people stay on the camper?
That changes every year. It's very weather dependent because of the water lines. So once it starts getting below zero on a regular basis, we have to shut the water off.
Oh, because they're above ground lines?
They are above the frost line.
Right, 4 feet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you've got shallow buried water lines to go out to the hookups, so that's why you can't have winter
camping. Yeah.
And do you clear it from snow so people can come in, or is it just like forget it? We forget this until
the most of it we let go.
Okay.
And we still plow out front for the mini home residents that are there year round and part of the campground. The campgrounds are our dumping zone for our snowbanks when they get too big. We bring in equipment and then they haul it into the campground for us.
And what sort of, because you're running a small town inside of our town, if you think of it that way. Right. And so you must be having to deal with the same issues that people in the town are, including last year's water shortage and the fire ban, which is something we wanted to talk about because you're not, with the bans, you're not supposed to go into the woods.
Correct.
So are you the woods?
We aren't the woods.
Okay.
Thankfully, people were still allowed to come. But campfires were off limits for most of last summer, which, as I mentioned, a big part of camping is sitting around that campfire in the evening and spending time with your neighbors or your family.
Okay. So there's no restrictions on living there. It's because it's not a wood situation, but you can't have fires, which is a bummer because that's why people are there.
Exactly. It's a damper to the experience.
Okay. And the water issue, was that ever a thing?
We were on water restrictions just like everyone else in Antigonish last year. And the challenge that created was our swimming pools.
Right.
Because people are using them, the water splashes out. There's evaporation just naturally from the sun. They're outdoor pools. And to maintain the water level, we normally would top it up with town water because we're on town services. But with the ban, we had to get a bit creative. We found borrowed a water jug, about 1,000 liters, to go on the back of our truck.
Yep.
Took it out to James River Falls.
Yeah, that's the solution everyone had when they were dry. Yeah,
exactly.
And filled it up. Okay.
And then they just topped the pools up from that source. Yeah.
Fascinating.
See, this is especially as an outsider and relatively new to the campground experience and subculture. This is fascinating, and so you get people who are very young children who come there.
Yes.
What about older people? Do they also come? What kind of atmosphere? How do you paint the atmosphere of the campground?
Yeah, so it's a range. Usually, families will start pretty young with their kids. You'll have their toddlers just waddling around, and at the pool and at the playgrounds. And then once they hit their teens, as I mentioned, they sort of age out. The kid, spending time with mom and dad isn't as fun as it used to be. No, exactly. So they tend to disappear. Often they'll come back once their kids are grown up as seniors, and they'll just spend the summers in there with other seniors their age.
Interesting. Do you have the tension? Because like when I've been camping places, a lot of the tension is around noise, and that the old people want quiet at some point, and then the kids and teenagers are up yelling. Is that a perennial
that
problem?
That is an issue, and we have night security to handle those situations.
Okay, so you have like a quiet time after 10 or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. That's always, I don't know, as a person who has done camping, that's always my first question. Are the bathrooms clean, and is it quiet?
Yeah. We have neighbors in town as well outside of the campground that we don't want to bother. So, on the perimeter of the campground, there's, normal residences on the other side of the fence.
Is that ever a source of tension? Because I know the perimeter of it, and it is right next to residences.
Yes.
So how does that relationship work?
It's typically very good.
Okay.
Yeah. We have some excellent neighbors that, that are very, very much, good to deal with and cooperative, and very few complaints. Usually when there are. So last year was the first real summer that the fire ban affected us. Campgrounds, private campgrounds like ours, used to be exempt from any fire bans. So what we did have was some neighbors who lived on the other side of the fence from us weren't allowed to have a campfire, but our people were.
Oh, that I can see that'd be super frustrating.
Yes, I think it did bother some people in the time. Yeah, and we heard from them.
Yeah. So, would you know how many such similar camps are there in Nova Scotia? Right in town, or are you?
I don't know of any others. So
wow.
you're in the province.
It's quite
an anomaly.
iconic thing.
Yeah, they are elsewhere. I know. In Leduc, Alberta, there's one right downtown. The Lions Club owns a campground in the middle of their town there. And throughout Ontario, I think there might be a couple too.
Have you ever, maybe you haven't, but have you ever run the numbers to say this is how much Whidden's contributes to the economy with the people that are here in terms of going to restaurants or whatever? Have you ever put a price tag on how much you're worth to us as a town?
No, I don't really think that way.
No, I can't imagine.
I'm just I'm appreciative of being so close to everything Antigonish offers, and having that for our guests. It's a great boon for us.
And so inheriting this business from generations in your family, it's not always the case where the next generation takes on something that you grew up with. How do you feel about taking this on and being an Antigonisher yourself?
Oh, I'm so happy to be an Antigonish. I moved away for a few years after graduating from X, but coming home was the best decision I've ever made.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be here, and I love my job. I love continuing to do what my grandfather started.
That's true. It's a lot like farming in that you hope it goes to the next generation, but maybe they're not interested in this line of work.
And in the farm, you probably will meet just the animals. Here, he and his meets the same family that comes year after year.
You have to be a people person.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So you're part of a long generation of people who like other people and want to be in customer service.
Yep.
So that's genetic, perhaps.
Yeah.
Is there anything we haven't talked about the park or your life or this culture that you would like people in Antigonish to know? Maybe they need to know about what you're up to, and you wish I wish people knew this.
Jeez, that's a tough one.
Yeah, or just some part,
or myths people have about your camp.
Yeah. Myths about our campground.
That's a good one. Myths.
Yeah. I think maybe the biggest surprise is the number of people that come for St. of X that will go through their whole program and not realize that we're right there, that walk by. And I think it's a pro and a con in a way. Being more visible would be perhaps helpful for business, but it's also good for the people staying there to be tucked away and to be, out of the limelight. As far as the things that we deal with that people might not realize, we see a lot of impact from the cost of gas.
Okay.
And it comes in a different form than you might suspect. We see more long-term stays versus the weekending again. So it's feeding into that same trend that is seeing our campground become more long-term than overnighters.
I see. Is that because to fill up an RV is expensive? So if you drive it somewhere, you might as well just leave
park it there, and it's cheaper to leave it there, and maybe you'll use it more.
I imagine that's going to be more of an issue in this summer.
But in this case, it is having a positive impact, and you don't have as many turnovers.
And the reverse would be true. We would have more turnovers.
Yeah, that's true because you have a reliable income because you know they're there all summer.
It's nice to depend on them, and and the same people that come back year over year, they're not going to cause problems.
Fantastic. Well, this is what I thought.
This is the positive impact of the gas.
Of the high gas.
Probably the only. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But I found this fascinating because it is like many people, like many of these St. FX students, like you see the sign. And then you have zero contact with it unless you're one of the many families that
and which is not a bad thing per se. That's what he's saying.
Oh, and you don't need the help advertising. It sounds like you're all set.
Yeah, word of mouth is basically all we do. We have an ad in the town map and a couple radio spots, but it's more so just to help support the town map, which is a great utility for people that are visiting.
Yeah, and you're part of Antigonish tourist. Circle.
Yeah, we're in that. Again, we don't really fit the mold of.
That's true.
Yeah, it's a different model from the hotels and other even the other campgrounds in the area.
Yeah. This is like a sneak peek behind the curtain, I guess, of what's going on at Whidden's for those who don't know, which I guess is most of the town in a way.
Yeah, fantastic.
So thank you for coming in and sharing this information.
Really appreciate being here. This is great. Yeah. Like I mentioned, I've been listening for quite a while, so it's fun to see how the magic is done.
Yeah, it's not too magical in our little office. It's semi-magical. But awesome. Well, thanks for coming in and have a great summer.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah. Good luck. Thank you for listening to Let's Talk Antigonish. If you like the podcast, don't hesitate to subscribe. Just go to letstalkantigonish.ca and click. Voila! You'll receive new episodes right in your email inbox.
This podcast is a labor of love. Please consider making a contribution, small or large, maybe a monthly subscription.
A thank you to all of our supporters and subscribers, especially our paid subscribers through the Substack. You are really helping us to keep this podcast going, and we look forward to expanding it in the future. Let's talk, Antigonish.